the law of assumption bridges that gap, that it
Yes.
is about belief. It's not just about, okay, well, I just threw some stuff up there, or I'm just chanted something for 5 minutes, and why hasn't my life shifted? But it's about stepping into and living the vision and the belief that you are putting forward, what you are assuming. What is it that you assume to be true about yourself? We all have assumptions that we
Yes.
have about ourselves, about who we are, about how we present ourselves in the world, about what other people think about us. People will use sayings like, well, people like me don't do that, or people like me do this, or
Right, right,
or
right,
people like
right.
us. That's a big one. People like us do these things, and people like us go here or don't do that, or that kind of thing. But that's an assumption that you're making. And in that moment, you are creating your life when you put forward that voice and that assumption.
Right.
And
You're using the law that way. That
yeah,
becomes your personal law.
yes, that becomes your personal law.
Peace and riches blessings. I am Michael B. Beckwith, the host of Take Back Your Mind. Peace and blessings, everyone, and welcome to Take Back Your Mind. I am your host, Michael B. Beckwith, the founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center and the host of Take Back Your Mind, where we are seeking, obviously, to take our back mind from intimidation, provocation, seduction, to anything that would be detrimental to our self-worth, self-love, self-appreciation, and the great spiritual realization that not only are we more than enough, but the great spiritual realization that we are emanations of the presence that is never an absence. So I welcome you to Take Back Your Mind. I have with me today Abiola Abrams. Welcome, Abiola.
Oh, thank you so much, Reverend Michael. I am so honored to be here and so excited about this conversation.
I'm glad you're here. I'm going to tell these people a little bit about you. You know, an award-winning author, intuitive self-love coach. We're going to get into that. A podcaster, global retreat leader. Her calling is to help individuals become who they were born to be. Her latest book, From Imagination to Reality, Secret Manifestation Lessons and the Law of Assumption from Abdullah, the Master Alchemist. By the time you see this, it will have been released or being released shortly.
Yes.
And I think I have a forward in her audiobook and her Kindle
Yes.
versions.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So listen, she's the first generation American daughter of a multi-generational healers, seers, and farmers in Guyana, South America, with roots in several West African nations. She studied sociology at Sarah Lawrence College. That's a good college. Has an MFA, Master of Fine Arts from Vermont College of the Fine Arts. Her personal development teachings are based on the power of ancestral teachings, rituals, meditation, and chakras, combined with the ancient wisdom of the divine feminine, which is so necessary at this time in human history. And you can find her meditation albums on Heal Your Life and Empower Your Unlimited apps. Hey, Abiola, welcome.
Thank you. So, Reverend Michael, let me just actually just brag on you for a second. I just want to just say thank you, and that I would not be sitting here were it not for you and the way that you have paved the way in just putting your voice and your magic and your brilliance in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do to empower us and let us know that we are more than, more than we could imagine. Thank you. Deep bow to
Wow.
you. Deep
Thank you
bow.
for that. Thank you for that. Lately, I've been called the spiritual OG for,
Yes,
for
yes,
some
you
reason.
are absolutely the spiritual OG.
I still feel so timeless, ageless, and so young. But I'm seeing all of these beautiful people rise up and tell me that, they listened to me for years and
Yes,
have forged their way in life,
yes,
practicing these
yes.
principles in a very powerful way. And that's It's fantastic. Well, tell me a little bit about you. I mean,
Sure, sure.
your spiritual background? Where have you come from? How did you get to be this individual? And then we'll get into your book and all of that too.
Okay. Okay. So very interestingly enough, I am the daughter of a reverend.
PK,
Preacher
you're a
kid.
PK, eh?
PK, yep. But my parents are from Guyana, South America, as you said. And so my father was not a full-time minister. He was a minister and also a journalist and also, worked on Wall Street and, had many different things going on. But he had a
You sound like a Renaissance man.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so one of the best gifts that my father gave to me was I remember very clearly being 12 years old where and he said, God is not out there in the ether, a man with a book, right, checking notes and writing it twice, or he's not Santa Claus, like, that God is within you.
That's
God is,
right.
he's like, put your hand here, and that's where God is. And I remember having a pivotal shift at that moment at 12, but then
Hmm,
still having to go through all of the 12-year-old stuff and all of the pains and agonies and stresses of dealing with being bullied and my parents'
hmm.
relationship troubles and all of those things, and still then having to figure it out myself. But I feel that having that knowledge by itself was a very strong foundation for me. And so I have been a writer as well my entire life and have always written about empowering yourself and walking in your truth and living your best self. But as we know, you can only bring people along as far as you've gone yourself. And so for a long time, that was very shallow and very surface level. And I knew all the things to say to help everybody improve their own their lives while my own
Right.
life was in the toilet, so to speak. And so the beautiful thing is that in the last decade, I would say I am in a place where I can say that I am truly walking my talk and living my purpose
Hmm.
and enjoying life the way that it was created to be. And so I'm so grateful for that.
So you did 10 years in the valley.
10 years in the valley, yep.
Learn, learn, learning to practice everything that you were sharing.
Yes,
When
yes.
when your father told you that God was within, you said there was a pivotal shift. I mean, did something happen mentally or emotionally, or you just something just shifted, even though you still went through Earth school as a 12-year-old
Right.
and had to
Yes.
go through the ups and downs of all of the emotional, social engagement that we all have to
Yeah.
go through. What do you think shifted when he told you that? Or
It
what
was
happened
very
for you?
much it was an emotional and a spiritual shift, Rev. I remember being on the subway and looking around at everyone on the subway and having a moment where, because I rode the subway at 12 years old back to school, people wouldn't do that now, but at that time my parents were
Right.
like, all right, well, good luck. The subway
You
overlooked
made it.
them. Yep, exactly. But I remember looking around at everyone on the subway, all these beautiful different colors of people, ages of people, experiences of people, dresses of people, and saying, wow, if God is in me and God is in them, and like we're all little bits of the whole, and almost feeling like the subway car vibrated. But I didn't have anyone to be able to have those conversations with, even though my father said that, like that wasn't something that I felt comfortable that I would be able to go and say to my parents, like, oh my gosh, I looked around the subway car and saw everyone and we were all vibrating together and it felt so powerful, feeling their power. I didn't have anyone to be able to say those kinds of things to. And so I was just for me, just the weird kid by myself who is, having these weird ideas about life and about people.
That's beautiful. You actually saw a bit of reality.
Yeah. Yes, that's what it felt like. It was breaking through the veil, breaking through the illusion that we are all separate, the illusion that we're all,
Yeah.
toughing it out for ourselves and seeing, the unified whole.
When I was 11, I had a similar experience where I was in a supermarket. It was around my birthday. I was in Washington, D.C., where my family's from. And I was sent to the supermarket. And when I was getting what my grandmother wanted from the store, I could see that the guy that was stocking the food on the other side, I could see it in my mind that he was about to drop some baby food.
Mm,
So I ran around and caught it. And he said,
Mhm.
how did you know I was going to drop the food? And I couldn't explain it. So on my way to my grandmother's house, my mother and my uncle and my grandmother were on the stoop. And I could see that my mother was looking at a son, my grandmother was looking at a grandson, and my uncle was looking at a nephew, but I wasn't any of that. I was bigger, but I couldn't explain what was happening. And so I had to make a decision. So when I got close to them, I shrunk myself and
Mm,
became what I thought they wanted me to be.
yes.
And so I was participating in a larger reality that broke out later in life. I couldn't hold
Yes.
it anymore. But I understand you had a glimpse
Yes.
of the vibratory that we're all vibratory beings and we're all emanating from one.
And we're all emanating from one. And it was exactly as you said that, I then started to play the role,
Yeah,
performing myself, and as a recovering people pleaser, I can say in every sense of the word, performing the perfect daughter and the great sister, the big sister, and all of those things, the A plus student, and performing those roles because that was how they saw me and what they expected.
right. I like that. We're all actors on a stage.
Yes.
And so at that moment, you became a little bit conscious that you were acting.
Yes.
And so you did the
Yes.
best you could do with your incarnation.
Yes,
That's beautiful.
absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
that. So your book, Imagination to Reality, this is going to be that's your latest book, right?
This is my latest book, yes.
And
That I'm
Abdullah,
looking forward for.
Abdullah, how did you come across his teachings? And tell us who Abdullah is.
Yes, yes, Rev. So Abdullah lived about 100 years ago, and he lived in New York City. He was a Black Ethiopian rabbi teaching about Christianity and self-empowerment and manifesting 100 years ago in New York City. And he is the spiritual teacher of the spiritual teachers of the spiritual teachers of today. So Neville Goddard, who of course you know very well, he was Neville Goddard's mentor and
Right,
teacher. And I learned about Abdullah, strangely enough. We say strange in quotes because we know that,
right.
synchronicities are never strange. I learned about him from my mother's mailman. So, Reverend Michael, I was going through Earth School and dealing with a particularly bad breakup. And oh my God, why did they do this to me? And, oh, woe is me. My life is over. How am I going to go on? And all of those things. And I was living in Harlem, where I lived most of my adult life, and came home to my parents' house to just be there and cry and and have a pity party for a few weeks. And my mother's mailman, we would have conversations, just how's the day, blah blah blah, because I would sit out on his porch, and I would sit out on my parents' porch and write. And at that time, I was writing for an entertainment website, so I was writing gossip. It was my job to write gossip. And so we would have these conversations. And he said to me, he started to talk to me about Neville Goddard, my mother's mailman. And he said, you should read Neville Goddard. I really think you should. And I felt like, because I was already familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn and,
Right,
other New Thought thinkers. I felt like I knew it all. I've
right.
already read it, similar stuff. I don't need to. And he was like, no, check it out. And so I looked into Neville Goddard and then started to look deeper and do research, because I'm a geek. Like anything that I get into, I go wholeheartedly into the research. And Rev, I started to learn that he was from Barbados.
Right.
Now, my family is three-quarters deep roots in Guyana and one quarter from Barbados. My mother's grandfather was Bajan. He was from Barbados. And so I thought, oh, that's very interesting. So for me, that was like it hooked me in as soon as I started to look into him, and I started to look deeper, and then found that his teacher was a Black man and that they were right here in New York, not far from where I went to school for middle school and high school, in the same neighborhood. And so it was fascinating to me. And so I started to then just delve into everything that I could learn about Neville and Abdullah and Dr. Joseph Murphy, who also studied with Abdullah. And then about a year ago, I just heard like an urgent almost an urgent calling from like Abdullah, from God, from source, from the universe, saying that this is what you need to put forward, that right now we've got to get this out. And
Hmm.
Abdullah didn't leave much of a paper trail, and now it's your job to now be his scribe, be his griot, be his voice, get it out there. This is what is necessary right now.
Wow. So did you find like papers, things that he had written or recordings of his teachings? I mean, how did you put it together? That's
So
100 years ago.
yes, it was 100 years
There was
ago.
there, there was no cloud.
Yeah, he didn't leave a hard drive. He didn't leave his Facebook page or his Instagram or whatever. Uh, the person who wrote the most about him was Neville, or
Okay.
spoke the most about him in his talks. And so it was going through not only through Neville's works, but as things went on, people on different forums had started to talk about him and piece things together, and looking through things like the local records and all of those sorts of things. And so just doing a deep dive, mostly through Neville Goddard's work and through Joseph Murphy's work, and there were other people who mentioned him as well, and recreating and piecing together what his teachings were from that, and then finding people who were the students of his students, because he allowed his students to come, and his students to record openly whatever teachings he was giving, and finding those teachings and putting them together.
Wow. So Joseph Murphy mentioned him as well often?
Yes, so Joseph Murphy had a very interesting experience where when he met Abdullah, Abdullah said to him, "Ah, you are one of six children." And Joseph Murphy said, "No, I'm one of five." And Abdullah said, "No, you're one of six children." And when Joseph Murphy went and had a conversation with his mother, his family, was in
Hmm.
shock, and they said, "No, there were six of you. And unfortunately, you had a brother who died, who is not here anymore." And
Wow.
so, yes. And so for people who are unfamiliar, Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Right.
And subconscious mind is a big part of the thread through Abdullah's students, the thread through Abdullah's teachings.
Powerful. Now let's get into the law of assumption to a degree,
Yes.
because you have
Yes.
that's what you're writing about to a degree.
Yes.
The law of
Yes.
assumption. How does he break that down?
So many people are familiar with the law of attraction,
Hmm.
and we have, teachers like you who brought that to us on a global scale and on a world stage. The law of assumption is very simply what you assume yourself to be, what you assume to be the truth,
Hmm.
is the truth that you create. And this thread goes through many different spiritual laws, has many different names, but it is the law of assumption. I call it in the book the law of life as well, because Dr. Joseph Murphy taught it as the law of belief, and Neville
Hmm.
Goddard taught it as the law of assumption. But they were really saying the same thing, that the
Right.
vision that you have for yourself, because a lot of people, as I'm sure you hear, they do vision boards and they say, "I pasted all these pretty things to a board and I chanted some affirmations for 5 minutes, and why is my life still the same? Nothing has happened. Why doesn't anything happen?" And they haven't changed anything about their vision,
Right.
really, about what they believe in their heart and
Right.
soul.
Right.
And
Right.
so that is what the law of assumption bridges, that gap, that it
Yes.
is about belief. It's not just about, okay, well, I just threw some stuff up there, or I'm just chanted something for 5 minutes, and why hasn't my life shifted? But it's about stepping into and living the vision and the belief that you are putting forward, what you are assuming. What is it that you assume to be true about yourself? We all have assumptions that we
Yes.
have about ourselves, about who we are, about how we present ourselves in the world, about what other people think about us. People will use sayings like, "Well, people like me don't do that," or people like me do this," or
Right. Right. Right.
people like
Right.
us. That's a big one. People like us do these things, and people like us go here or don't do that, or that kind of thing. But that's an assumption that you're making. And in that moment, you are creating your life when you put forward that voice and that assumption.
Right.
And
You're using the law that way. That
yeah,
becomes your personal law.
Yes, that becomes your personal law. And most of the time, we're not even conscious of it. We're not aware that we're doing it. Like my mother and my aunts, for example, used to say all the time, well, poor people like us. And when
Ah,
I pointed it out to my mother, she said, oh, I don't say that. And she says it all the time, but it's a program that she's just not aware of because she's been saying it so long. And someone before her had been saying it long and she took it on, and someone before them had been saying it a long time. Well, people, yeah, poor people like us, or we never get ahead, or that's for the rich people. People like us, we don't get ahead. People, things don't work out for folks like us. And I remember my mother saying about me, with a situation, saying with love, oh well, stuff like that doesn't work out for us. This is many years ago. And I said, well, that's not my truth. And it kind
right,
of jarred her out of the story that she had created and was living in. I said, no, that's not true for me. Like I'm a young woman. Like I can't subscribe to a whole vision of people. It doesn't work out like that for people like us. That's not my story.
right. Where's your mother now?
So my mother is amazing and gardening and right next door
I mean,
and
didn't
retired.
she change her thought?
She has changed her thought completely, and she has
Hmm.
a different assumption
Hmm.
about life. And her assumption is, here's my daughter, she is a success and things always work out for you. And if you question my mom, she has a beautiful form of amnesia where she wouldn't even remember that she used to say that. She would say, oh, I know,
I
I
never
always
did that. I never said that.
said that. But it's a good question. I think, for your viewers to ask yourself, what are my assumptions about my life?
Right,
What do I assume to be true about my about what I think of myself, about my relationships, about my finances, about my purpose in life, about my
right, right,
children or my parents? What do I assume to be the truth?
right. Now, was there any unexpected lessons you learned by going through Mr.
Yeah.
Abdullah?
Yeah. So first, I want to just say one thing, because when people are watching these conversations about manifesting, they're often watching through the lens of, I can't wait to learn how to manifest. And I want to just point out that you're already doing it. The great thing is that we're already manifesting. So if you look around at your life, everything that you see, you have already manifested. We're
Right.
just talking about consciously
Yeah, absolutely.
manifesting on purpose.
Right.
And so, one of the beautiful stories, Reverend Michael, about Abdullah is because one of his teachings was about self concept, the concept that we have about ourselves, what we would consider, a combination of self worth and self esteem and self love. And so, one of the beautiful stories is that, because as we know, 100 years ago, folks who looked like you and I were not free to sit where we wanted, go where we wanted, live life as freely as is our birthright.
Right.
And Abdullah was in love with the opera. And so outside of my old hometown of Harlem, New York, in New York City, there were not up north, yes, up north, folks. There was still segregation, and if you were a black person or a person of color, you were restricted in where you could sit and where you could go and the things that you could do.
Right.
And Abdullah refused to subscribe to that. And even being a lover of opera at that time, his white friends would offer to purchase his tickets for him, and he
Hmm.
would say no. He wanted to purchase his own ticket. And so he would walk right up and he would say, here's where I want to sit, two in the front or wherever it is, not too far back, right in the center, and be very clear about what he wanted, assuming that that was his birthright and that he was able to do so. And they would say to him, no problem, here are the tickets. And not telling him, well, go to the back, or all of the rules and regulations that were legal, that were the law at that time, because he was walking in a different assumption about himself.
Right. Right. Yeah. You're reminding me of my mother, Alice, and my auntie, Sylvia, during that same type of segregation. They would go into those restaurants and sit down And the people would say, black people, but they wouldn't call them black people. They call them something
Right.
else, can't
Yes.
be in here. And they would start speaking pretend to be a different language.
I love it.
They just start speaking like an African dialect. What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You know, and they said, "Oh, you're not American. Oh, you can be in here." But it was so silly because they were black, but they were
Yes.
pretending to be from an African country,
Yes.
and they were allowed to be in the restaurant, but they
Right. With a different accent.
different accent, and they would start pretending they would make up a language,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
would go they would go anywhere they wanted to go under that veil. But I
And it's
understand that
yes.
he assumed, so the law of assumption is actually creating a feeling, and
Yes.
you're assuming that something is true, and you're feeling that it's true, and you walk in that vibration, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so
And
when you're working with people and you're teaching the law of assumption, you're helping them overcome all kinds of challenges, I imagine.
yes, yes. I
Relationships, money, health.
money, the whole gamut. You have an Aunt Sylvia. I had an Aunt Sylvia as well.
Oh,
It was
really?
one of
Yeah.
my favorite aunties, my mom's sister. It was my Aunt
Yeah.
Sylvia. And so, yes, so the law of assumption, people use it, for all sorts of things, in their life. Like I said, that it's what we are already doing, but we want to consciously do it. And you said something that is very powerful that I want to highlight. You said that it is the feeling that they're
Hmm.
walking in the feeling, and that is the key, that it's
Right.
assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So,
Right.
assuming living it from the end. So, what is the feeling of what it is that you want to create and bring forward in your life, not just the what's on the vision board or what you've pasted up, but what does it feel like? So for me, in manifesting consciously, sitting here with Reverend Michael and having the honor that Reverend Michael, oh my goodness, wrote the forward for my book, people like me are exactly the kind of person that have conversations with Reverend Michael. You could create a physical copy of your book or your album or your speech or whatever it is that you're wanting to create, that helps, that if that will help you to create the vision and feel it from the end. Go through your senses. What does it sound like when you are, if your vision is going to the opera like Abdullah or whatever it is? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it
Hmm.
feel like? What do you feel like in your body? What do you see? What are you looking out on? What is it that, is the totality of that experience? Get it into your bones, get it into your veins, so that when it actually happens, it's like, this is exactly what should be happening. Of course, this is what should be happening. Just the same as, when you go and you get in your car or whatever it is, it becomes a part of, it just is. It just is.
Absolutely.
It's
I,
not
I,
weird, it's not strange, it just is.
I know I always assume when I'm going into the store with my dog and it says no dogs are allowed except for service dogs, I just assume that first of all, I'm of a certain character. I can have my dog,
Yes.
and the dog is definitely servicing me. I
Yes,
just, I just walk in, I just
yes.
walk in and nobody bothers me ever.
Yes, because of the assumption that you have. And it's very interesting. I was very moved by that point of Abdullah, because just a few blocks away from where he was going to the opera house, when I was going to school and like with my friends, and before there was Uber, when I wanted to catch a cab, I would always let my white friends flag the cab or
Uh-huh.
whatever it was, because I felt like, okay, well, I have issues with them stopping for me. So I would always, so the fact that 100 years ago that he said, no, I don't need anyone to do that for me. No, I am
Right,
a whole and complete human being in myself. I am walking in my truth and who I am on this earth, and allow the molecules of the world to rearrange themselves around
right.
your vision and your dream. Yes, then you're
Absolutely.
doing it.
Absolutely. So where do you think some of the other barriers are to people truly manifesting their dream life, or just manifesting, greater joy, greater happiness, greater prosperity?
Yes. So the biggest barrier, I would say, Rev, is our belief about what it is that we believe to be true about ourselves.
Hmm.
What do you believe to be true about you? What is the story that you've been telling yourself about yourself? We all have a story of us, so to speak, a
Right.
story of you, a story of yourself. And it's become so pervasive that we're usually not even aware of it. So it's the things that we're not aware of, the intangibles, So if you're that's a big one. Another big one is fear of being different than however you define your tribe or your circle. And
Hmm.
so if you
Hmm.
because we're human beings, and so we're tribal, we're community minded, we want to be like or be liked and be like the people who are around us or who are important to us. And so you may have the biggest challenge for people who have a big vision is that if you have around you small minded thinkers who say to you, either verbally or just by their deeds or
Right.
actions, if you feel that they are saying, well, this is not the way to be, that you could possibly be rejected or kicked out of the community, whether the community is your family, your job, your career, your whatever, by being something other than what they are, then we will subtly adjust ourselves out of our vision. It's like when you came home, and you were seeing that, okay, I'm a father, I'm a grandson, I'm a son, and then suddenly in that moment you adjusted yourself, you
Right.
know, as I did, to play the role that was accepted. And unfortunately, people are doing that all the time. Visionary, wonderful, incredible people are doing that all the time. And I say to folks, well, oftentimes we're asking people to accept our vision who don't even believe in themselves. So we're asking them to believe in us and they don't believe in themselves. And it's your vision. So why would they necessarily get it? They're not going to get it. It's not their vision, it's your vision. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so you go and walk in your vision, and then they'll say, like my mom, oh, I always knew. Oh, of course.
Well, the universe would definitely, and the conditions would definitely bend themselves
Yes.
according to the vibration that you're holding
Yes.
about yourself. It's a
Yes.
living feedback as to who you feel yourself to be. You'll
Yes.
get that back. And oftentimes people think that other people are saying or doing things to them. And that may be partly true, but also you've already done that to yourself at some level. And they're giving you feedback as to what you're thinking about yourself until
Yes.
you shifted your assumption about yourself and then your reality, your experience of reality will change. Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
in your book, are there exercises? Are there ways? Are you teaching people how to overcome some of these challenges in the book?
Yes, there are. So in the book, there are exercises and processes as well as journal questions. And one of the things that everyone that who is watching or listening can do very easily is there's a process that is called state akin to sleep. And what that is that the moment
Yeah.
right before you go to sleep,
Yeah.
we are in another another world, right? We're not fully consciously here in this world, and we haven't yet gone into the dream world, and that is a very powerful access point for your subconscious mind. And the reason this is important is that your conscious mind is not who's manifesting for you. Your subconscious mind is who is manifesting for you. So that's why we'll have issues like with for example, with lottery winners, when we look at lottery winners across the board and you say, well, why did they, so many of them, they win the lottery and then their lives, go downhill. And it's because their conscious world has changed, but not their subconscious mind. And so if you harness that time right before you go to sleep to hold your vision, to hold whatever vision you are calling forward. And that vision is calling you forward as well. As Rumi so beautifully put it, what you are seeking is seeking you. So that vision that you're calling each other forward, if you hold that vision right before you go to sleep, that is a very, very powerful exercise that anyone can do, that anyone,
Absolutely. It's
yes,
extremely important. I like to tell people that and also upon awakening, right before you get fully awake,
yes,
if you do the same thing, I have people like write their vision down or write something.
yes,
Read it before you go to sleep, when you're falling asleep, and read it when you wake up. before the conscious mind can get in there and talk yourself out of it.
Yes.
It's when you're waking up, that's called the hypnagogic state. And it's you're conscious, but you're almost not conscious. But you can really program the subconscious mind. And as you
Absolutely.
say, most people don't understand the subconscious mind is controlling everything. There's a wonderful old story of a man heading north. He's riding an elephant. He's heading north, but he's facing backwards. And the elephant is heading south. So the conscious mind, he wants to go north, but the elephant is the subconscious mind going south. And so that's kind of everybody's like consciously saying, "Oh, I'm prosperous," but the
Yes,
subconscious mind is saying, "People like us,
yes. Right,
we
right.
can't be prosperous and successful." So the subconscious mind is taking you north, while the conscious mind is taking you south, and the conscious mind is trying to go north. But you gotta get that subconscious in gear, and that's one of the ways you program it by what you just said. Before you
Yes,
go to sleep, you
yes.
basically have some great self-talk, read something that's going to, begin to go deep into the recesses of the subconscious. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I had to, as I'm sure you did, like I had to reprogram myself, and that was one of the tools that I used to revision myself in your words.
Are there any other strong manifestation technologies?
Yes.
Obviously, there's more in the book. What would
Yes.
you say is one of the strongest other ones?
So there are many in the book, as you said. One of the most powerful, that is again the most simple, is the power of words. Using the power of language, the words that you speak. If you thought that every word that you speak was casting a spell, for
Yes.
example, what spell have you been casting over your life with the words that you speak, the words that you speak about yourself, the words that you speak to about others? Like I said, I used to write for a gossip site. Are you spending your words gossiping and talking about other people? Are you spending your words? What do you say when you talk about yourself? Even in jest, and that's why it's so important the company that we keep. That if the words that you speak are all derogatory and have a low vibration, we can feel it. You can feel the shift between when you're speaking words of love and the elevation that you get from speaking words of love over yourself and over others and over situations, and speaking words of fear that are small, that pull energy away from people. And anytime that the people that you're around, that you have to shrink a little bit or play small or hold yourself back in order for them to be comfortable around you, it really feels like you die a little bit to yourself,
Yeah.
because you do, like in that moment that you feel that you have to hold back, or well, I can't say what I really want to say because I'll be perceived as weird or strange, or in that moment you die a little bit to your energy. So be very conscious of the words that you speak. What words are you speaking? Affirmations are very powerful. One of the things that I have in the book is, I call them decrees. So
Yes.
what they
I
are
use that word a
referring.
lot too.
Yes. Okay. Yes. They're
Declaration and
extended.
decrees.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So they are extended affirmation statements. And so the reason why I put them in the book was so that people could read them in theory. You could do a practice where for 30 days that you read a decree in the morning, read it at lunchtime, and then read it in the evening as a part of your the conditioning of your mind. And so it's not just a short affirmation, but it's an extended affirmation about a specific thing, a specific situation, where you are again reprogramming using the power of words. Every word has a vibration
Yeah.
and an energy to it, you
Right.
know. And
That's
so
yes, that's so true. That's why we call it spelling.
yes.
Spelling, it actually means that you are casting a spell. Your words are casting a spell.
Yes.
So, we have to understand where that even comes from in the very beginning, spelling.
Yes. Spelling.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I remember a long time ago hearing the late great Dr. Maya Angelou say that, she was very conservative about the kinds of words that people could speak in her home, because she said she felt like, she could see it and she could feel the words, if they're in there like cursing and saying negative things and horrible things, like that energy is, she said, it gets stuck in the walls and it gets stuck in the drapes, and like it's there, and it's an energy of itself. And
I like
so
that.
yes,
It
yes.
is true because it's vibration.
Yes, it's vibration. It's
Mhm.
vibration. And so, what vibration, what's the vibration of the words that you are speaking around yourself and around your life? And if you don't know the positive words to speak to begin with, then using these decrees is a good place to give yourself a foundation, to give yourself a foundation of, okay, what are the words that would help me to reset my vibration, to reset my default settings.
This, this is this is you're bringing people back to the powerful fundamentals,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
the fact that Abdullah was teaching some of the great teachers
Yes,
years ago. I knew about never got about Goddard. I knew
yes,
he was in Barbados, and I knew that his teacher, was this beautiful African black man.
yes,
And
yes.
I remember there was a person who had spent a period of time with Goddard in Barbados, and he came back from a retreat, and he was in New York, and he was in a high rise, and he stepped into the elevator. The elevator wasn't there, and he fell down the shaft a number of floors. And when he hit the bottom, he wasn't hurt. And as soon as he realized there was no elevator there, all he said was, God is all there is, 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 all the way until he hit and he was unharmed. But he had just left Goddard,
Mm.
who had
Wow.
nailed that into his mind that God was all that there was. So
Right.
I had also a teacher. Her name was Reverend Juanita Dunn. And we later on in life, we co-taught together. And she was a great mystic. And her teacher was Goddard. And one day we were in class and she was talking about Neville Goddard. She was talking about manifestation. And she opened up her hand and produced a gold coin. And she had this really wry smile on her face. All of her eyes are very tight, sometimes like mine are, you know.
Mine too.
And so he's always been in my vibe,
Yes,
Goddard.
yes.
So now Abdullah.
Now, Abdullah, this makes so much sense because I got, the spiritual nudge, the spiritual hit that, okay, got to talk to Reverend Michael Beckwith because he's our modern Abdullah. Like that is what, consciousness said to me when I was like, okay, I can either reach out and reconnect around the energy of, oh, well, he's, what my some of the folks around me said, oh, well, he's busy, he's got a lot going, he wouldn't, no, God is all there is.
Listen,
I'm
when
right
I
in front
saw
of
your
him.
material, it wasn't even what I read, it was just a feeling. I can't even explain it. It was just like this feeling happened. And I said, oh, yes, yes, yes. I'll do it. Absolutely. I can feel this. She knows this. I know her. I just felt like uh, this conversation, I felt it then. I felt your energy and I felt your book. And there's just something about your presentation. I didn't even have to go through it all. It was just like, oh, this is a yes. Bring her in. Let's do the book, whatever. Yeah. It was a God thing.
It's a God thing. It's a
Yeah.
God thing. It's spiritual liberation.
Yeah, totally
So
and completely. Now
yes,
you have an oracle cards.
yes,
And you have an oracle reader certification program?
yes,
This
yes.
is really
So
something. Tell me about this.
sure. So, Oracle cards. So, for people who are unfamiliar, Oracle cards are a divination device, and divination is in almost every one of the 52 countries on the continent of Africa. And what divination is, it's a communication device between you and the divine, you and spirit, you and God consciousness, you and the universe, in just making manifest the messages of the divine. And one of the beautiful ways that this work has come to me before working with Abdullah has been mostly in the energy of the divine feminine, bringing back and elevating the energy of the
Mhm.
divine feminine that for so long has been suppressed and shut down. And so oracle cards, the two decks that I have, one is called the African Goddess Rising Oracle deck, which is about rising, bringing back that divine feminine ancestral energy, and the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle deck.
Mm.
Because if energy cannot be created or
I want
destroyed,
some.
yes, okay, we're going to send you a full Oracle deck package. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
send me that. Yeah.
Yay, I will send them to you. I will absolutely send them to you. And what I was going to say is that, if energy, we talk about ancestors, and for some people they get scared and they get nervous. And I say that, science is catching up with spirituality all the time. And everything that we're talking about has a scientific basis. And energy cannot be created or destroyed. It always is. Whatever was, it always will be. And we are energy. Our ancestors are energy. They cannot be created or destroyed. They always were and always will be. And so, how wonderful for us, how lucky for us to still have access to a chain of, all who walked before, whether
Mhm.
they are in our bloodline or our culture or just someone who is inspiring to us. How marvelous and how exciting for us.
Absolutely. Let me put you on the spot for a second.
Yes.
Do you have a technique you can do right now with the people
Sure, I can.
that will help them manifest?
Yes. What I
The-
will do very simply is I will pull a card. Let's pull a card and see from the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle deck what the ancestors are wanting us to know. So,
Okay.
okay, so let's see. All right, so this deck has within it both divine masculine and divine feminine energy. And that's not about, gender as we perceive it, or the gender you were assigned at birth. It's energies, it's yin, it's yang, it's yin and yang energies. And so I am going to just shuffle the cards, and everything is God, as we said,
How
everything
many
is
cards are there?
God. And so there are 45 cards in this deck, 45 different ancestral representations. And the beautiful thing is that you have people from all different cultures who are looking at. I'm going to just show you before I shuffle, these beautiful representations, and
Hmm.
saying, wow, okay, I see myself and my culture in it, even though they may be from a different, totally different culture. And it's
Right.
because, again, it's energy.
Mother
It's
of Earth.
energy. It's all
Mhm.
energy. So let's see what the ancestors are inviting us to know right now on this beautiful spring day. Okay. All right. Beautiful. Okay. Makes sense. Wonderful. Okay, so I pulled a card and now I'm pulling a clarification card. And so here are the two ancestors that have come forward for us, which makes a lot of sense. So the first is leadership, the father of air, leadership, which makes sense in this conversation, and the mother of earth, fertile ground.
I knew that was coming up. Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. And so the two of them with this Mother Earth and this Father of Air energy, what this is saying is that you are in the right time, the right moment, the right space to shift everything in your life. And if you can do some grounding, which is, as we say, touch grass or touch sand, or just get your feet on some soil, if you're able to do that, that is a very powerful practice for just allowing your vibration to reset. Give it to
Hmm.
nature. Go back to
Hmm.
nature. Just, touch soil and just come back into yourself and the present moment.
Fantastic. I did a lot of that yesterday.
You
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I stayed home and just took off my shoes and stood on the lawn and did a lot of breath work and just looked in the sun and bathed the sun and just put my feet on the grass and just absorbed all of Mother Nature that I could. Yeah. I mean, not that I don't do that
Well,
other
yeah.
times, but yesterday I had an extended period
Oh,
to
that is
do it.
beautiful. That is beautiful. I will
So that
show
does
you.
fit.
Yes, that absolutely, that does fit. That does fit.
Mhm.
So if you're watching this, if you're in New York like me and you don't have access, go to a park. We have some beautiful parks if you're in a big city and don't have access to a lawn or something like that. But get your body to touch some earth. Touch some earth.
Yeah. Now, out of all the things that are in your book, anything else you feel that's just salient,
Yes.
you would say to yourself, "Oh my God, I should have shared these points before we got off."
Yes. So I'm going to share with you now one of a very well-known story about Abdullah.
Mm,
An
I like
interesting story
stories.
about Abdullah, and I do too, about Abdullah and Neville Goddard. So Neville, in this is right after or during the Great Depression, Neville had been a dancer. And he was
Mm,
working with Abdullah and cleaning Abdullah's house in exchange for spiritual teachings. And
mm,
Abdullah was teaching him Hebrew, he was teaching him Greek and teaching him these manifestation teachings, esoteric teachings as well. And Neville had this sudden urge to want to go back home to Barbados. He had not been home in 12 years. He had been a successful dancer. He was doing very well. But now Broadway was shut down completely because people couldn't afford to eat. So he certainly couldn't afford to go and, watch folks dance and perform. Broadway was shut down and he didn't have a lot of money, but he knew that he just felt like he really wanted to go home. So he said to Abdullah, he said, I really want to go home to Barbados. Christmas is coming. I'm missing my family. Haven't been home in so long. I just feel heartbroken. I just need a home cooked meal from my mom. I want to go home. And Abdullah's response was very simply, he said no. He asked him a question first. Do you really want to go? And Neville responded, yes, of course, I really want to go. And Abdullah said, then you are in Barbados. And Neville said, well, what are you talking about? Like, is this old man daft? Like, what do you mean? I'm in Barbados? No, we're in New York. It's the Great Depression or whatever he said. No, I'm not. I'm not there. I want to go home. And he said, Abdullah repeated, you are in Barbados. And he then explained to him, when you leave here, don't look at the sidewalks in New York and the people shoving and pushing and whatever else is going on out there. Don't look up at the trees and the skyscrapers. Look up, and when you see those trees, see palm trees. When you see the ground, smell the air of Barbados. See the sand. See your mother's home. You are in Barbados. When you go to sleep tonight, don't go to sleep in New York. Don't go to sleep in an apartment. Go to sleep in your mother's house. You are in Barbados. And from that moment, that was Abdullah. Abdullah refused to participate in the conversation of wanting to go to Barbados because he said, you are in Barbados and we will only deal from this energy right now. And so Neville went about going, looking and seeing, okay, well, I'm in Barbados and there's a palm tree and there's a whatever, and persisted in this vision, the acting as if for a couple of weeks. And he came back to Abdullah and he said, it's not working. It doesn't work. Just like we said, they did the vision board. I said some affirmations. It doesn't work. He said, it's not working. And Abdullah said to him, you are in Barbados, and refused to have any other conversation about it. And Neville shares when he tells a story about how Abdullah then even slammed the door on him and just wouldn't talk about it anymore. You're in Barbados. So why would I talk to you about going to Barbados, Abdullah said, when you're already in Barbados? So a couple of days passed, and Neville received a telegram from his brother saying, we just really would love to see you this Christmas. And so we've purchased a ticket for you on the next ship going out in a few days. And they didn't have any first class. There was only steerage or third class. So we've purchased a ticket for you, and here's some money. Here's $50 for, you to get luggage and everything that you need, because you don't have anything, so that you could come on home. And so Neville went to Abdullah and he was so excited. And he said, oh my goodness, it happened. My brother sent money. I've got a ticket. I'm going home. But unfortunately, they didn't have first class. They only had third class. And Abdullah immediately switched and said, you went to Barbados and you went first class. He said, do you see the man that you are traveling third class? You already went, and you went first class. And sure enough, they ended up, where there was a mysterious cancellation where, someone wasn't able to go and he was able to ride first class and went home for several weeks and got to eat his mama's cooking
Okay.
and have a wonderful experience.
I understand. I roll like that a lot.
Yes, me
So
too.
my friends, people around me say, you just changed reality. Because I'll say something and they'll say, that's not true. I said, yes, it is. And then
Yes.
they'll find out it's true. And they say, you changed reality to make that true. I
Yes.
said, nope, it was true all the time. Yeah, but I like it because you're assuming when I go places, I'm assuming certain things. Just like he was in Barbados, I assume everything is going to work out for me all the time. That's just where I live.
Yes.
And so
Things work out for people like us.
I call it, and people say, you're lucky. I say, no, luck is living under cosmic knowledge, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
Luck, living under cosmic knowledge. Phew.
Love
And
that.
just
Yes.
let it fall. And if there's a denial or delay,
It's
that
just
means
a
something else,
delay.
something big's about to happen. Something good's about to happen, man.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. He said, "You are in Barbados,"
I
and
love
that was
it.
the assumption, and so there's no need to talk about it. Talk about, well, how are you gonna get there? It's happened.
It's
Yes,
happened. Live it. Yeah.
yes.
Let's change the past.
Yes, yes.
Listen,
That's
tell
it,
them the
exactly.
name of your book again and way that they can find you.
Yes.
Where are you?
So the book is named From Imagination to Reality: Secret Manifestation Lessons and the Law of Assumption from Abdullah, Master Alchemist. And you can find me at womanifesting.com. So like manifesting.com, but womanifesting.com. And I'm throughout social media at Abiola TV. I also have a podcast called the uh, Goddess Temple Sunday podcast. I'm stuttering because I'm just so excited about this moment. And like I said, you can find me throughout social media at Abiola TV, where the TV stands for Transformation and Victory.
Very good. Are you on Instagram as well?
I am on Instagram, I am on Facebook, and I am on YouTube as well.
Fantastic. What is your astrological sign?
I am a Leo.
Okay,
Leo,
what's your
Leo,
birthday?
Leo. July 29th.
Okay, on the
How about
21st.
you?
July
You're July
21st.
21st?
Uh-huh.
My sister's birthday is July 21st. Yeah, my
Really?
sister, that's so funny. Yes, yes,
Yeah, my
absolutely.
dad was the 24th. hmm
Ah,
I'm
my
right in
dad.
the cusp.
Okay, yeah, you are. You're right there. But
Mhm.
like I tell my sister, I'm like, you're a Leo. I read your Leo energy, definitely.
Younger, when I was younger, I was very much solitude, introspective. Even I could burst out, but and then later on in years, I was able to access the fire of coming out. And
Yes,
but naturally, I love being alone, but
yes,
I love people, so I have both.
yes, yes. Well, I do too. I say I'm either an introverted extrovert or an extroverted
Excellent.
introvert.
Yeah,
You can
there
take
you
it
go.
either way.
That's what's happening right here.
Yes, yes,
Abiola Abrams,
yes.
good conversation. Good to meet you like this, even though I felt like I
Yes,
knew you already, but good
yes.
to meet you. And your book's going to do well. It's already done very well.
It's already done. Thank you.
So
Thank you
many
so
people
much,
have read
Reverend
this book
Michael.
and their lives have changed and transformed from glory to greater glory. And so
Glory.
many people know about Neville Goddard. They know about Abdullah. They
Yes,
know
they know. They know. It is done.
it is done.
It is done. Thank you so much, Reverend Michael. I enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you for shifting the molecules with me here in this beautiful conversation.
Absolutely. And God bless you. Tell your mother I said hello. And
Thank you. I will.
I'll see
I
you later.
will. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As I like to say, radical blessings or dynamic blessings to you. We're going to take a few moments to become still, become quiet, to practice the art and science of introspection that leads to transpection. I'm talking about meditation, paying such radical attention to being right here and right now that it shifts the course of our destiny. Close the outer eye. Allow yourself to become still, feet firmly placed on the ground, eyes closed, hands on your lap facing upward as a sign of receptivity and availability. Just take a nice inhalation. Release. Again. Release. Again. Release. Bring into your awareness a moment in your life. It doesn't matter when the moment was, from infanthood all the way up to present moment. A moment in your life where you felt safe and secure. You felt that all of your needs were met. You felt totally loved and supported. Safe and secure, all needs met, known as harmonizing prosperity, totally loved and supported. Whether you were an infant, whether you were with one of your grandparents, a sacred friend, or alone in nature. Now here's the deal. If you can't remember such a moment in your life ever occurring where all three of those things you were coalescing with, take a moment now and re-enchant your imagination and imagine what that would feel like. You are safe and secure. All of your needs are met. You are prosperous. You are totally loved and supported. What does that feel like? Take on the feeling tone of that, to the point that with every breath that you take, that feeling tone becomes more real, more vibrant within your very being. All needs met, safe and secure, loved and supported. Safe and secure, all needs met, loved and supported. And begin to inwardly assume that this is your life. This is the vibration that you carry. This is how you live your life. Loved and supported, safe and secure, all needs met. Safe and secure, all needs met, loved and supported. Be with this in your awareness. Let it become the feeling tone of your body temple, all of the subtle bodies. You are safe and secure. All of your needs are met. You are totally prosperous. You are loved and supported. Feel that. Assume that to be true about you. This is your life. This is where you are coming from. stabilized in every step you take. Everything you say and everything you think. Pay attention to this as we let it be. And so it is. As you open your eyes, you have meditated for just a moment that you are so safe and secure. All of your needs are met, and you are totally loved and supported. And that is true. Have a beautiful day. I appreciate your letters and emails that you've been sending in, but also the notes you're sending on the Instagram and on the website, thanking me for Take Back Your Mind. And I thank you for your support. As I've said before, if you want to support Take Back Your Mind, support the sponsors. The main sponsor is the Agape International Spiritual Center, agapelive.com. We have a Facebook presentation, an Instagram presentation, a YouTube presentation, and a website presentation. You can donate to the sponsor at agapelive.com. It's one way that you can donate. It supports the podcast. Second sponsor is Nutrarise.com. You go to Nutrarise.com, those 3 lines up at the top, you touch that line, and you'll get Adaptozen. Adaptozen are my products. The Super Green Superfood Greens and the vitamin D3 K2. Both extremely good for your health, your nutrition. You support the sponsors, you're supporting the podcast. Have a beautiful, and as I like to say, a bright day, luminous day, because you are a luminous being. Peace and blessings. Your time is very valuable, so I want to thank you for lending us your ear and participating in taking back your mind. If you want to submit a question for the question of the week, please submit it to podcast@michaelbeckwith.com. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please submit a review and let us know your thoughts. Stay on top of current episodes by subscribing to the podcast so that you'll receive alerts and not miss one single episode. And feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And until we meet again, take back your mind, and you will take back your life. Peace and blessings.